What's up, party people? My name's Chris, y'all. I'm a bookaholic. All right, so hey, guess what? Today we're going to talk about some stuff that we are well versed in, which is homesteading. It's kind of what we've been doing here at the Happy Place Homestead for 8 years at least. And my wife and I, we have a phrase that basically is so true, but it's easier to maintain a homestead than it is to build a homestead. It's a lot of hard work and it's a lot of money. We in 2015 moved from basically eastern Ohio into central New York. And we found this little place and started homesteading here, working our property, and we got land aplenty. So we got some animals, and really, it's been an incredible journey. And along the way, we had been introduced to a number of different people that were really helpful in kind of teaching us some basic principles that we needed to learn, and also just kind of were readily available whenever we had questions. What I wanted to do was just show and highlight a couple books from, this homesteading, almost do-it-yourself farming. Anyway, here's some books that I think are really helpful. I'm going to start with the master. This guy is kind of the patriarch of information when it comes to the homesteading arena, and that's Joel Soliton. And Joel Soliton, his farm, Polyface Farms, he's been featured in a number of books, obviously, has been highlighted by countless videographers and YouTube programs, and has been featured in a number of movies as well. So he's the big deal. I mean, he's the one that people go to when they want to get that perspective, and understandably so. He's a genius. He's well-versed, he's exceptionally bright, and he knows what he's talking about. So at the end of the day, you can find tons of videos. Justin Rhodes has done a lot of videography and highlighting Joel Soliton and Polyface Farms, and so you might find yourself enjoying even Justin Rhodes and his program, his YouTube channel as well. I have, and I love it. So anyway, here's the first book I'm going to bring up, The Sheer Ecstasy. It's the sheer ecstasy of being a lunatic farmer, and in a lot of ways, this is kind of what basically people seem to want to call Joel Soliton, that he is some sort of almost a disconnected hillbilly type person who doesn't really get it. But again, he has spoken at some of the most prestigious schools and conferences, and he knows what he's talking about. So he's not just some sort of stereotypical, bumpkin who hasn't a clue. This guy, he's in the zone. So he's got tons and tons of books, and they're all pretty much self-published, or at least a good portion of them are. And so if you get the chance to check out any of his stuff, I highly recommend it. He's extremely organized, and I think you'll find him to be appealing. But I think what's even better than just the books is if you get the chance to listen to the audio versions of these books. And so he narrates many of them, and if you get the chance to check them out and listen to him talk about it, I find him to be extremely captivating. But here's a few of the books that he's put out. Polyface Micro, and this really is helpful for livestock on a homestead scale. And this is great because this would fit perfectly for us. We're not a huge operation. We're not like the Midwest with thousands and thousands of acres and thousands of head of cattle or sheep, for that matter. We're just a few here and there kind of thing. And then we like these kind of books because it gives you a lot of practical insight and tips. And some of the things that, of course, Mr. Soliton here is known for is his rotational grazing, the role and the way that building a good compost and how you do that, and the purpose of basically having animals come in after, certain animals have been there before, using pigs to clear land. And then you have, just the whole setup for how do you do this during the winter. And I just love his stuff. He's so good. Here's a few others. Family-friendly farming, a multi-generational home-based business testament. Certainly, a lot of things have changed over the years when it comes to how people market their products. You're a successful farm business, this little book here. Actually, all of them are fairly substantial. They're not like small, easy, the books are pretty plump. They got some great stuff. I haven't opened this yet. Everything I Want to Do is Illegal. I love that. One other one, Fields of Farmers by Joel Soliton, interning, mentoring, partnering, and germinating. What I think, again, some of these books and some of these kind of ways that he's presenting it might feel a little bit overwhelming or not possible because, he has a whole kind of infrastructure for people who come in and help work the land. But, have to remember that he was doing this way before he had a whole bunch of people coming in and working the land. He's just... People want to learn from him. So that's why he's kind of at the top of the tier when you talk about homesteading and how do you do it and where do you go. All things Joel Soliton, I'm a big fan. And yes, of course, you're going to have to probably modify and tweak according to your situation. Not everything's immediately transferable, but you certainly can, grow into a lot of this and take the good. In the words of Facts of Life, the TV show, take the good, you take the bad, you take them both, and there you have the facts of life. That might be close to the lyrics. All right, here's some other side books that are interesting and that you might find interesting. Wilderness Ethics, National Outdoor Leadership School, Valuing and Managing Wild Places. This is a Knowles Wilderness Ethics. It's a powerful resource for understanding the challenges facing wilderness in the United States today, beginning with the premise that land management must be informed by a well-developed wilderness ethic. So, if you're concerned about kind of the way that things are being done, that might be a really decent book to check out. I enjoy personal stories of why and how people have started their homesteading careers and the meaning behind the madness. We Took to the Woods. This is a very famous book, Louise Dickinson Rich. I've been reading this for a little while now, and it's just kind of you're plopped into the situation of what it was like, and I'm loving this. This is a pretty known book. It's a classic. Bernd Heinrich, A Year in the Maine Woods. And again, some of this stuff is really going to be... Look at this. Somebody made this. Tom's Fancy Bookmark. It's just a 3x5 card left in the book. I love that. But even in the back of these books, sometimes there'll be just kind of almost like journal-esque notations. This one has that, especially just kind of talking about the lay of the land, plants, the animals. Here's a couple others. This Land, These People, Jean van de Water. Essays about North Country life. These are really kind of cool. The Foxfire books that they have within it all sorts of just kind of almost ways of doing things that would come in great, very handy if the internet went down. Let's just say that, because everybody goes now, and understandably so, to YouTube to try to find out how to do things. But, everything that you might want to know, rope, straw, and feathers, quilting, soap making, recipes, preserving, all of that stuff. You can find that in these Foxfire books. They're not easy necessarily to find, but or they might be a little bit expensive depending on where you are. I like these. And again, they're a little outdated, and in a way, nobody's going to really utilize them because you just go to the YouTube and you type in your interest, and there it is, a million videos. But God forbid some sort of weird thing happen, and how do you do this if you don't have an immediate circle of people that you can interact with? Well, what are you going to do? How are you going to learn that? And that's what these are. I think that's why these are still somewhat valued, because what if you're going to have that little supply on how to do things. What was maybe basic common knowledge back in the old days, not so common today, right? This idea, I don't have two of this same book here, so obviously I'm gonna have to unhaul one of these. But Andy Lee, Pat Foreman, this chicken tractor. This actually, though, interesting. The idea of the chicken tractor, that is so Joel Soliton. It's incredible. A chicken tractor, the permaculture guide to happy hens and healthy soil. Just trying to see if there's a publication date on this, because without sounding completely insane, and I'm not saying that Soliton started it all, but honestly, that's a huge part of his deal, is rotational grazing and the chicken tractor. So there's a huge epic book where Joel Soliton basically gives you all of the designs for all of the things that he's created and uses in an exceptionally efficient. Now, it's a high-end operation in a lot of ways, but on a budget. So you might find that to be helpful. We have a copy of that. I think it's over in the kitchen. I'll show that in a future video. But you type in Joel Soliton, you're going to not only find chicken tractor information, but everything else too. So, and this might be a really enjoyable book. I'm going to have to check it out a little bit more to see if it's offering something different, but it's whatever. All right. Just some odd things that water follies, groundwater pumping, and the fate of the Americas, fresh waters. Where we are, it's a highly saturated area. We even have wetlands on our property. So we're always interested in how do you deal with water? What's the way to respect the rules and the nature that's around us, and also how do you make it so that you have land that you can utilize, right? So just kind of getting more and more aware of things like that. It's really interesting for us. Wilderness is all around us. Note of an urban naturalist. I don't know anything about this book. I've not read this, and honestly, I'm not really sure this would work for me, but I will say that the idea of like just realizing that you don't have to live in the country to have an appreciation for kind of homesteading principles, an urban naturalist. I don't really know that this is going to give me much. Yeah, all wildlife is not threatened by man's presence. Some wild creatures not only survive but prosper in cities and suburbs close to man. So the 6 pieces in this book all have to do with survival because of rather than in spite of man. Okay. So we learn about a birch tree that was once thought to be extinct, about wildflowers and billion-year-old rocks in the midst of a great city, about a rare winged visitor to a Boston suburb, and the coyote whose presence in the Western Hemisphere predates man. So yeah, there's a little of what that's about. I don't think that's anything on my future of reading anytime soon. Let's just say that. Uptucket Road, An Education of a Modern Homesteader. This definitely seems a lot more up my alley here. This is the kind of book that I like. This is basically, a testimony, a witness of, a person's journey. So ever since Thoreau's Walden, the image of the American homesteader has been of one getting away from civilization. If this were ever true, what is the nature and reality of homesteading in our modern, saturated, hyper-connected 21st century? So for 7 years, Philip Ackerman leased and his wife, Erin, lived without electricity or running water in an old cabin in the beautiful but remote hills of western New England. So this is a little bit of that journey. And, that's kind of a little bit more common now. And, you hear stories of people who are going to live off grid for a little bit of a time, or, what if I had no electricity? How would I survive? And so, we have shows that are out there, right? Naked and Afraid and all that. Like, here's an example, like the man who quit money. 2000, Daniel Suelo gave away his life savings and began to live. Now, that might not be homesteading necessarily, but it's certainly the idea of detaching from all the things and the stuff around us. And then if you ask people, why did you start homesteading? There's a million reasons why people wanted to do that. I want to know where my food comes from. I'm tired of, the crazy, shenanigans of the urban lifestyle. I want to get away. I'm tired of being attached to all sorts of stuff. So there's a lot of reasons why people want to try to get off grid or get away. The memory of Old Jack. Wendell Berry is a staple for a lot of people who like more simple lifestyles. And Old Jack Beecham, a retired farmer whose 92 years of life close to the land have been lived out in a small Kentucky River town, go back to the Civil War, recounts his life in one radiant summer day in 1952. In the retelling, novelist and poet Wendell Berry recreates Jack's life as a boy, lover, husband, father, farmer, reverend community figure. I know that Joel Soliton loves everything by Wendell Berry, it seems, and this guy's a staple and a classic. Kind of old town America, farm life, that's it. A Woman in a World of Men, an autobiography of a farmer's daughter. Again, I just like stories about homesteads, the wilder life. This is going to certainly be an adventure in the lost world of the Little House on the Prairie, my adventures. So Wendy McClure. And then, this is this is a little bit of a kind of a famous book, the complete book of composting. And I had found this probably based on a recommendation that I had seen from Joel Soliton, but Rodale, that's a monster little thing here. The Church and the Land by Father Vincent McNabb. And again, just from my personal perspective, I'm kind of curious about there's this kind of almost like a back to land movement that's been happening. So modern wisdom urges people to crowd into the cities, their suburbs, and to have few children, to live on credit, teaches them to regard industrialism as inevitable and to view life, a life of speed and noise, as both normal and desirable. The Catholic Church teaches the contrary, and she proclaims rather that life on the land, the raising of large families, the possession of real wealth over artificial tokens, concern for the needs of men and not those of machines, and the focus of the life to come constitute the only way to true happiness and contentment. So that profound teaching summarized in The Church and the Land in a series of concise, penetrating, and challenging essays. Father McNabb speaks the truth that offers conviction for the puzzled mind and solace for the troubled soul. So you might, find that to be of interest. And that would be something that I would be interested in, because certainly, of course, the reality of the Catholic Church is everywhere, urban, rural, you name it, in the middle of nowhere. Scenarios, little hermits and hermitages and monasteries and convents and you name it, global, right? Universal. But, there is something about that detachment and that connection to the land that the Catholic Church really appreciates and promotes. So that would be a book for me that would be very interesting to really soak in a lot more. So anyway, these are some of the books that I kind of find interesting and part of that little homesteading world. Maybe you have some books that you love. This is certainly not exhaustive by any stretch of the imagination. There's so many more. And, let me know what you're liking, what you're reading. And, so I love this stuff, and I hope you do too.